Coastal sirens are screaming. 3 minutes ago, an offshore fault ruptured, shoving a column of ocean upward across 100 square kilometers. That displaced water is now racing outward at 700 kilometers per hour, and no one can yet confirm a tsunami exists. Emergency directors must decide now: evacuate entire coastlines on faith in the science, or wait for proof that may arrive too late. Sirens cut through the air, their wail rolling over rooftops and empty streets. In the dispatch center, a supervisor's hand hovers over the alert panel, eyes locked on a digital clock counting seconds since the quake. The order comes: activate every alarm from the marina to the hospital. Less than 3 minutes have passed since the first jolt, but the decision window is already closing. Protocol demands speed. Municipal systems are drilled to push the warning before any official confirmation of a tsunami. The risk of waiting is measured in lives, not in data. On the edge of town, a volunteer firefighter sprints from her car, keys still in the ignition, jacket half zipped. She pulls open the doors to the community center, calling out for anyone inside to move uphill. Her radio crackles with the dispatcher's voice, saying, "Evacuate low ground, repeat, evacuate low ground." In neighborhoods closest to the shore, families grab children, pets, and whatever they can carry. Some hesitate, searching the horizon for any sign of a wave. There is nothing to see yet, just the relentless siren echoing the uncertainty. People spill into the streets, some on foot, others in cars, headlights sweeping over sidewalks as they head for higher ground. Sirens themselves are a promise and a warning. Their sound is the product of a chain reaction set off by an offshore rupture, delivered to the coast by a city's faith in its own readiness. No one knows if the ocean will rise or if this will be another false alarm, but in this first minutes, hesitation is not an option. The countdown has begun. Beneath the calm surface, the ocean floor does not simply shudder, it moves. When a megathrust earthquake strikes offshore, the rupture line cuts through the crust, sometimes stretching for hundreds of kilometers. The most dangerous quakes are those that force the seafloor upward in one swift motion, shifting an entire slab of earth by 1 meter or more. This vertical uplift acts like a giant paddle, lifting a massive column of water above it. In scientific terms, a measurable tsunami is born when at least 1 meter of uplift occurs across an area of 10 by 10 kilometers or larger. Anything less, and the ocean absorbs the motion with barely a ripple. The mechanics are precise. The fault's geometry, its angle, length, and how it slips determines how much of the seabed rises or falls. In a matter of seconds, the energy stored in the locked plates is released, and the overlying water is pushed up, sometimes by several meters. This uplift is not a gentle swell. It happens almost instantly, sending a pulse of potential energy into the water column. The water, forced out of equilibrium, responds by spreading the disturbance outward in all directions. The process is so fast that the surface above the rupture can bulge upward before anyone on land feels the first tremor. Seismologists use the term finite fault to describe these rupture zones, which are mapped in real time using seismic waves and GPS data. The size and shape of the uplift zone set the initial conditions for tsunami models. If the slip is asymmetric, focusing energy toward the coast, the resulting wave can be even larger. The threshold for disaster is crossed not by the violence of the shaking, but by how much and how far the seafloor is lifted. This hidden trigger, silent and unseen, is what transforms an earthquake into a threat that races toward the shore. A tsunami wave doesn't crawl, it sprints. In the deep ocean, a tsunami unleashed by a seafloor shift surges outward at nearly 200 meters per second. That's 713 kilometers per hour, as fast as a commercial jet. What begins as a silent bulge, often less than 1 meter high, stretches across the sea with a wavelength from 150 to 1,000 kilometers. Unlike ordinary waves whipped up by wind, a tsunami's energy runs through the entire depth of the water column, not just the surface. The physics is simple but staggering. The wave speed is set by the depth of the ocean. The speed, called c, equals the square root of g times h. In the Pacific, With an average depth of 4,000 meters, that means a wave can cross from a rupture zone to a distant coastline in just hours. For a coastal city 200 kilometers away, the first wave could arrive in under 20 minutes. For islands farther out, the window stretches to a few hours, but never long enough to guarantee safety by sight alone. As the wave travels, it hardly loses energy. Its long wavelength means it slips beneath ships unnoticed, yet it carries the force to reshape shorelines. When the tsunami encounters underwater ridges or continental shelves, the wavefront bends, and refraction focuses energy towards some coasts, amplifying risk in places that may seem sheltered. Shoaling near land slows the wave but forces it to rise, turning that deep water pulse into a wall of water. These numbers, speed, wavelength, arrival time, are the backbone of every forecast model. They dictate the urgency in every warning, and they set the boundaries for how much time a community has to act. Inside the warning center, analysts stare at a wall of monitors, each pulsing with new data. The system's first trigger is seismic. An earthquake with a moment magnitude of 7.5 or higher automatically launches a tsunami watch. Within seconds, the seismic feed reports location, depth, and estimated rupture size. Algorithms compare those numbers to historic patterns, searching for the telltale signature of a megathrust event. But the real test comes next. Out in the open ocean, dart buoys wait for the slightest change in pressure. Anchored to the seafloor, each buoy samples the ocean's pulse, sending a data packet every 2 to 5 minutes. When a tsunami passes, even a rise of a few centimeters is enough to trigger an alert. The latency is short, but every minute counts. A pressure anomaly at one buoy can mean a wave is racing toward the coast at jet speed, giving analysts a narrow window to update their models. As soon as the first dart reading arrives, the modeling chain kicks in. Forecast systems ingest the seismic solution and buoy data, running thousands of simulations in parallel. These models factor in the fault's geometry, the estimated seafloor uplift, and the latest ocean depth maps. The output is predicted arrival times and wave heights for dozens of coastal points displayed on dashboards that refresh every few seconds. Analysts watch for consistency between the modeled wave and the real-time buoy readings. If the numbers match, the warning escalates. If not, the models are revised, sometimes in the space of a single phone call. The entire process from seismic trigger to actionable forecast can unfold in less than 5 minutes for a major event. In those minutes, the difference between a false alarm and a life-saving warning is measured in the speed of sensors, the clarity of models, and the judgment of those watching the screens. Inside the Emergency Operations Center, the director's phone lights up with a flood of calls, some pleading for clarity, others demanding to know if the threat is real. On the street, the volunteer firefighter waves families uphill, her voice nearly drowned out by the siren. She doesn't have answers, only the order to move. No one at this stage can say for certain if a tsunami is coming. The science is clear on one point: out of every 100 offshore earthquakes that trigger sirens, only about 22 truly warrant the alert. That means most evacuations unfold in a fog of uncertainty. The director weighs the decision, knowing that a false alarm erodes public trust, and waiting for certainty could cost lives. The call is made. Move everyone now. In the chaos, some residents question the urgency, others don't risk it. The clock keeps ticking, and the city holds its breath for confirmation. A sharp tone cuts the tension in the operations center as the first dart buoy transmits its reading. On the analyst's monitor, a pressure anomaly appears precisely at the predicted time. The model's arrival forecast and the real ocean data align within a margin of just 5%, a match that is rare in the chaos of live events. The analyst calls out the confirmation, the wave is real and it is on schedule. For a moment, the uncertainty lifts. Emergency managers now have proof. This is not a false alarm. The decision to evacuate stands validated, carried by a chain of sensors, algorithms, and human judgment. The science holds and the coast braces for impact. Every minute, seismic sensors scan the deep for the next rupture, with less than 20 minutes separating warning from impact on many coastlines. Readiness is not optional, it is survival. The ocean never waits, and neither can we. Share your thoughts on preparedness in the comments below.